Why Media Group? The fastest growing media group in North America.
Hello viewers, this is Abhijit Parashar and you're watching Why Media. Once again, we're back with our special guest on our show. And we're going to discuss a lot of issues and special thing which people should know about. And that's the topic which we're going to discuss today. So we're having our special guest today, Honorable Sam Oosterhoff, who is the Ontario's Associate Minister for Energy and Intensive Industries. So we're going to get a lot of insights from him. So without further ado, let's just welcome him. So thank you so much, Minister, for being here on our show today.
Abhijit, great to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, that's great. I was going through, your portfolio and all of your things. So for our viewers, if you could just tell us that what exactly the energy and intensive industries are according to your portfolio.
Yeah, we have so many of these foundational industries here in our province that help to ensure that we are a prosperous province. And they're ones that we might not always think about, right? You think about the cement industry as an example. You think about the steel industry. You think about greenhouses, data centers, oil refineries. These are all heavily energy intensive industries that are foundational to our entire economy. Whether it's the roads we drive on, the homes we live in, flipping on our electricity, being able to use our phones, it takes a lot of power to make that a reality. And my job is to make sure that those industries have the power they need, that power is affordable, that it's reliable, and that it's clean. Because we know how important that is to our future economy and to the workers who work in those industries and power Ontario for the future.
That's lovely. But you did mention a few of the industries. So if you could just tell us that what are the key industries, pivotal industries for Ontario's economy?
Well, there are a lot of industries that are foundational to our economy, but look at some of the sectors that we have in advanced manufacturing, for example. Whether it's the life sciences sector, we have hundreds of thousands of people who work in the life sciences sector. You look at the steel sector, the manufacturing sector around auto parts, hundreds of thousands, if not almost 500,000 workers here in Ontario are dependent on that auto parts manufacturing space. You look at nuclear, you look at the incredible amount of work that goes on in our critical minerals and mining sectors. All of these sectors require vast amounts of power in order to run the refineries, the smelters, the manufacturing processes that we might take for granted. And that power is in high demand right now, whether it's with data centers and the growing digital economy and the massive amounts of power that are required there. We're going to continue to focus on ensuring these industries have the power they need so that the people who work in those sectors are able to go to a good job and be able to come home and flip the light switch on and know that power is always going to be there for them.
That's a big thing. I mean, you mentioned this, so it's a big thing. But you mentioned about demand. So what are the biggest, risks you feel that could be there if energy grids or energy supplies are not keeping a pace with the demand?
Yeah, well, the reality is we often take so for granted that we have enough power to do all the things that we want to see here in a G7 country with an advanced economy. But the reality is that power has to be produced, it has to be transmitted, it has to be generated at a nuclear power plant or a hydroelectric plant or a renewables power generation facility. And we need to get it from point A to point B. In Ontario, by 2025, we anticipate there is going to be a 75% increase in the amount of power that's required here in the province. That's like almost doubling our entire grid. It's the equivalent of 4.5 cities the size of Toronto, a massive amount of power. And so what we're doing is working to have an integrated energy supply system that keeps costs down by having a competitive procurement so that people are bidding against each other, keeping those costs down, and ensuring that consumers, at the end of the day, ratepayers, whether that's industry or a senior on a fixed income, a young family, that they don't have to worry about having to choose between heating and eating, but that they're able to choose power that's clean, reliable, and primarily affordable.
Wow, that's great. And I mean, it's kind of a big news that how the energy supply is going to be double almost, and that too soon, I would say. But Energy for Generations was a plan which is, Ontario's first integral energy plan. So if you could just shed some light on that plan and how is it going to help the intensive industries?
Yeah, so the integrated energy plan that was released earlier this spring, Minister Lecce and I released it. It's not just the first in Ontario, it's actually the first in Canada and the first in the G7. It's really is. And the reason it's so important is because it takes an all of the above approach to energy. It says we need every tool in the energy toolbox. Yes, we need to have renewables, wind, solar, battery storage. Yes, we need to have our nuclear power. Yes, we need to have we need to have hydroelectric dams. Yes, we need to also ensure that we have reliable access to natural gas, that we have reliable access to affordable gasoline for our vehicles. And what it really does is it also looks at emerging new technologies, things like hydrogen and other areas, and says all of this needs to come together into an integrated whole instead of having planning that's happening here on its own in isolation, planning that's happening here on its own in isolation. This all needs to be driven by a focus on affordability, a focus on security for the people of this province, and on reliability so that everyone knows that that power is there. It's one of those things that we may, again, just take for granted that we're going to have enough power that's going to be reasonably affordable, that it's going to not harm the environment. But that's not a given. It takes generational leadership. And I believe Minister Lecce's efforts to say we're not just going to plan on a 4-year cycle, on an election cycle, but really to look at a generational approach, a 25-year build out, acts as a guiding principle for all the energy sector to come on board, to build out our energy system, to do so in a way that's driven by the needs of the people.
This is going to be big. It's going to be the big thing. And like you said that this is not only the Ontario's first integrated plan, it's Canada's first. So how is it, coming up with working with all the provinces all together?
One of the big areas that we recently actually just held a conference here in Ontario, the Connecting Canada Energy Conference, and we hosted all of the energy ministers from across Canada. And we brought them here to Toronto, to Ontario, showed them the Darlington small modular reactors, a new and innovative small nuclear reactor that we're building, the first in the G7 here in Ontario. And we said, we need to be connected, whether it's transmission grids so that we're able to ship power to each other in an affordable way, whether it's new pipelines being built across this country, or whether it's export opportunities through ports in James Bay or Kitimat in BC. We need to work together to ensure that our energy here, clean, affordable, reliable Canadian energy, is viewed as an asset for our economy and for our standard of living. And so it has been a really close relationship with other partners in other provinces to work together on this plan. And we believe that there's a lot of future leadership that Ontario can provide to the entire Canadian Federation as we go forward.
I'm sure, because I guess with this effort, first of all, it's a big effort. And absolutely, I guess it inspires more upcoming generation as well.
But it also inspires investment from industry. Because industry wants reliability, they want to see affordability, and they want to know that it's going to be there for generations. Because they're going to come in and spend billions of dollars to build a big plant, whether it's a Volkswagen battery plant or other plants. To make those kinds of investments, they need to know that the government has their back with power that's going to be affordable and reliable, and that's really what we're trying to do.
This is a big thing. But as you mentioned, the large sector industries, I wanted to ask this specifically. If I've got a chance, then I guess our viewers must know about this, about the last grid connections for large scale industries. How do you explain this for large sector industries, and how is it going to help in reducing delays and costs for large sector industries?
Well, we made a big investment in last mile grid expansion through some regulatory changes. So previously, if you were a first mover, what we called a heavy industrial partner moving into a new industrial park or a new build out, you had to pay for all of those costs. And none of those costs would be carried by any of the others who came after 5 years. And so we extended that horizon to 15 years. And additionally, we actually extended the amortization period, similar to a mortgage, from 15 years to 25 years, which means that that monthly payment that company is carrying, the carrying cost is reduced, right? Just like it would be if you extended your mortgage for a longer period of time. That helps for cash flow, which again helps for predictability and investment, ultimately supporting jobs.
And it's great that it's going to reduce the monthly payments for them. But how tariffs are playing part in it?
Tariffs are impacting the supply chains, but we also have a really strong plan to bring a lot of that domestic industry back to Ontario and back to Canada. I was just on the phone earlier actually with folks about transformers and trying to get more of that manufacturing into Ontario, trying to build out our domestic production of transformers so that we're not reliant on American companies, that we're not reliant on American firms who produce a lot of this equipment, but are bringing those jobs and that work here back to Canada. So it's a challenge. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. It's not easy, but that is also a real signal to us to domesticate a lot of those industries again.
And if you could just give us a little insight about, I know that it could be confidential as well, but if you could just give our viewers a little insight about, any exclusive discussions you're going on with the Prime Minister.
Well, I'll just say that the Premier Doug Ford, is working regularly with the Prime Minister on getting a deal. We saw yesterday very disappointing sentiments from the American Commerce Secretary. The reality is we want mutual benefit for the Americans, but for Canadian workers. And we're going to stand up for Canada every step of the way. We have an incredible relationship over the years with the United States. We don't believe that they should throw that away. We have critical minerals, we have energy, we have potash, we have so many things that they need. And we've had a very close relationship. We want that to continue. We want there to be benefit for Americans and Canadians. And so we're going to work closely to get a deal that supports both.
Big thing. And lastly, before we conclude this interaction, I would just want to ask, the big thing which is everywhere, affordability. How do you see, because affordability is something which, even the household sector, they are struggling with it. And even, I guess, the large scale industries are also struggling with it. So what do you have to say about affordability, that how do you reconcile in investing clean technologies?
Yeah, so affordability is absolutely crucial. It's one of the key components of the Premier's efforts in the energy file. We saw a 300% increase in hydro rates when the Liberals were in power.
Yeah.
We saw 300,000 manufacturing jobs leave this province. And I remember knocking doors back in 2016 when I was first elected, and seniors were having to choose between heating and eating. Since we've come to power, we've renegotiated thousands of bad contracts that the Liberals had signed at above market value. We've renegotiated those and realized a 30% reduction in savings in those contracts. And what that's meant is, by having a competitive procurement process for power here in the province, that sounds like you say that 5 times quickly, eh? By having that process, we've actually been able to keep electricity prices below the rate of inflation. If you look at inflation over the past 6-7 years, and you look at where your cost of, let's say, groceries or other things that have been impacted by inflation, and you look at the increase in your electricity costs, because of the policies that we've taken around competitive procurement to drive affordability, that's increased far less than inflation over the past 7 years, and we're going to continue to be driven by that kind of an approach. That being said, the price of inaction is far higher than the price of action. We can't have rolling brownouts. We can't have it that industry can't grow, they can't create jobs because they can't access power. So we need to build out that generation, but we're doing it in a way that's very much sensitive to consumers and ratepayers.
It's a big thing, and we've got a lot of insights from you, Mr. And thank you so much once again that you brought a time and to be here on our show, and you gave us some special insights. And I guess this is something which, as we were discussing, that it's really important for people to know. And there's a lot going on your end, which people might not be aware of. So this is the best thing through which people are knowing about this. So thank you so much, Minister, for once again joining us here in this interaction.
Well, Abhijit, the Premier, Doug Ford, has been very clear. All of our jobs are to protect the economy and the jobs of the people of this province. We're tirelessly going to do that in the energy portfolio or in any other. So thank you, Abhijit. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. So viewers, this was our exclusive interaction with the Honourable Minister Sam Oosterhoff, who is the Associate Minister of Energy and Intensive Industries. So he gave us a lot of insights about how exactly the situation is there with the intensive industries and how exactly the future scenarios would be. So for more interactions like this, stay tuned with Y Media. Till then, signing off for now.
Y Media Group, the fastest growing media group in North America.